Welcome to the Front End Nerdery podcast, a podcast about front end development and design. I'm your host, Todd Libby. My guest today is CIO of Infinite Red, mentor, adjunct professor, published author, an award-winning speaker, and from what I gathered, a pseudo coin collector, which we'll definitely talk about later. Gant Laborde. Gant, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Todd. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, then we'll get to the coin stuff.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Well, started developing back in the long ago when they were first forming the Rings of Power. No, just kidding. I've always been a nerd at heart. I live in New Orleans, which is a fantastic place, but it's a lonely place for a nerd. I was just playing video games. I was having so much fun. I had an old NES system, and my neighbor had Sega. We'd play all the time. And then one day, my neighbor came over with a disc, and I was like, "What game is that?" He's like, "It's whatever game we want it to be. I could change this to be other games." I was like, "That's cool, but I don't know where you put that." He's like, "Let's go to your dad's work computer." I was like, "I'm not allowed to touch that." We did anyway. And we played some games there. And so that really kind of started getting in there. And then one day, my neighbor made the computer say, "Hello, Gant." And that was it. That was it.
Yep.
I was it. All in on computers ever since. And I know that kids growing up today probably don't care about that experience, or you're like, yeah, of course you can change the stuff on the screen. And of course you can change this and that. It was a life-altering moment for me as a nerd sitting there just constantly receiving to one day realize I could change what was going on. And that was it. I was like, "Dad, I want a computer." He was like, "You're gonna wrestle." And I was like, I don't want to wrestle. I want a computer. He's like, "If you wrestle, I'll buy you a computer." I was like, "Okay, yeah, no problem." So I earned my first computer. And my dad actually took all the Christmas and birthday money. You remember those scenes in those movies where the dad like opens it up, like takes the money out of it? That was my part of that. But anyways, I got my computer. It was the best thing I ever did. And I've been programming ever since, writing software. And professionally, I've been programming for, oh my goodness, 22 years. Got my first professional programming gig in 2000. So I might have been programming longer than some of the developers I work with have been alive.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I do know the feeling. And I also know the feeling of like you when you had that moment where the computer said hello.
Yes.
It was like I learned to program Commodore Basic from the manual.
Oh my goodness.
From the manual, and I made numbers go in sequential order infinitely. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is awesome."
Isn't it funny? Like the things that are just moments of, you have no idea what I made. And like just we take it all for granted today. I think that the passion of programming, developing, creating front end, all that, it's still going strong, but it's just so funny because it's changed so much that our origin stories sound silly. Like, I made up my own language. It was a vocabulary of 150 words, and I made a program to translate to my own language. Like, that sounds like, did you not have TikTok? Like, what were you doing with your life?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I was actually telling some people about the first real programming, I guess, project I ever did was I took those choose your own adventure books from way back in the day, and I programmed the whole thing in BASIC.
Oh, so good. It's so good. And it's you know what? It's hard to tell people, but like these things kind of stand the test of time in that aspect, because storytelling is more important now than it ever was. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite games when I fly around. So, we saw each other recently in Mississippi, City. I was in Vegas last week. I'll be in London next week. Sorry, I'll be missing you.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite games to play on the airplane is like a story-based rogue style game called Shattered Pixel. And what I love about it is that you don't need an internet connection, and all you do is like it's sort of like turn-based, and it has like a little story inside of it of what's going on. And you could stop it anytime you want, put it down, pick it up. It's exactly the last move that you had.
Yeah.
And in this sort of like fast-paced action, wild, oh my goodness, you better move fast, you gotta click faster. The person's got a faster internet connection. You're not doing 60 clicks per second or whatever. It still like holds your attention for days of interest and excitement because it's telling you a story that you're a significant part in, and it's adding new variations and other parts to it. Those storybook style games, I think, are going to make a pretty big comeback at some point once we've saturated what the human experience can finally handle.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of reminds me, the game you mentioned, that kind of reminds me of Zork.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think I have an old manual left over from that, from either the first or the second one. And it's like, I love those text-based games from back in the day. Just loved them.
Yeah.
So why don't we just go ahead?
Yeah. I believe actually my our CTO of our company, Jamin, I think he made his own version of Zork. It could be this wrong, but I think he called it like Kraz, which was like Zork backwards. I might be messing it up, but anyway, it's super cool to recreate those masterpieces. Lots of fun.
Definitely. So let's jump into the questions, shall we?
Oh yeah, I'm here for the questions.
Okay. So my first one is usually the same to everybody. How did you get started in your web development design journey? I think you covered most of that, but if you got more, please tell.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I used to do is I was always looking for other people to nerd out with, and that I made lots of programs in Visual Basic. I made lots of programs in other things, but once there was this interconnectivity, like I could build a website and other people could come to it and see it. I started learning immediately all kinds of cool stuff, and I made so many websites connected to people around the world. And that's honestly like my origin story as a nerd in New Orleans, reaching out and meeting so many people around the world has been open source and building websites. I actually managed one website that was in the top 100,000 websites of all websites for a while, and it was just a hilarious domain name. It was called bleacheatingfreaks.com, named after a friend of mine who said that once. I was like, that's a domain. And that's just kind of what happened. And we had contests, forums, boards, trivia. I even made some online Flash games. Does anybody remember those? I made like 4 or 5 Bleach Eating Freaks online Flash games. It was just a treat to see people, like right in the beginning, before this was a popular thing, people making videos of how to beat my Flash games or getting high scores in them. It was super cool. And speaking different languages. I was like, wow, this is great. And that drew me into this interconnected world that was absolutely necessary. So that's what got me into web development by far, was just the people.
Yeah, definitely. One of the first major websites I had, other than a personal site, was a Dungeons and Dragons site about this faction of wizards that exist, or I think they still do. And it had message boards and forums and all this interactivity. And it was it was really fun, like that interconnectivity for people all over. I remember going on AOL back in the day.
Yeah. And man, we're gonna scare away all your younger visitors, but oh my goodness, the nostalgia that's coming. Like it was perfect times.
Yeah. So let's get into some questions that I really wanted to ask that I have here. So React Native. React Native.
Yes.
Okay. What is React Native? if
Perfect.
we have somebody that, doesn't know me, I don't know a whole lot about it. And what do you use it for? What do what are the applications?
Yeah, let's go. Let's do a quicker time walk from a shorter time ago, like 2009 iPhone world. There's an app for that. Oh yeah. Hey, it'd be really cool if I could get a timer, a Pomodoro timer. Oh, it'd be really cool as if I could do this or that. And then what happens is there's this whole world of build an app on your phone for every idea that you possibly have. And during this time, there was a bunch of entrepreneurs who did a fantastic job in making a lot of money. One app was like $900, and it was just a red dot. It says like I paid $900 for this app or something like that. And the trick is you could show other people. Like I bought the $900 app, and then of course there's a bunch of spin-offs that looked like that, and just a weird kind of time because there was just iPhones and just iOS and just Objective-C, and everybody was buying Objective-C books, being like, wow, this hasn't been updated since the 70s. What's going on here? And then, of course, Android came along and equalized the playing field to a degree where every single product that ever came out needed to have an iPhone and an Android phone app. And that's where we find ourselves today. The problem with that is, well, iOS has released, Swift, and there's all kinds of other ways that you can write apps for iOS. You also have like this similar sort of force on the Android side trying to do Kotlin over the Java. And so and then honestly, there's also things like Flutter and all kinds of other languages. So there's all these options that are out there. And so you say, all right, I want to buy an app, well, you need it for both platforms. And one of the things that really kind of gets people is that gets really expensive real fast. Apps are not cheap. In 2009, you might have found somebody who was doing it for the street cred or, whatever they told people to make starving artists work. But apps cost a lot, and to write an app twice is ridiculous. So there's a whole bunch of different solutions that people came up with on how to make this better. And one of them was like, let's take all of the web and shove it into mobile. That was like Phone Gap, if you remember that. And changed multiple names well afterward. It was just a terrible feel interface. It looked and felt janky, and it was difficult. Now, of course, you could put a lot of time and effort into making it work and feel a lot better. But now you're managing two different things. So what was the savings? And then there came out with React Native in 2015, and the idea was you just do it in JavaScript, and then it'll render it down into native components for you. And this one really took off because the React world is huge. So people were like, oh, let's take these React developers. They already understand React concepts and principles, and then also have them go build some native apps in React Native. And of course, the transition's not perfect, but the amount of code reuse you get between web, iOS, and Android, and now also Windows machines, Mac, Apple TV, the platform independence that you're getting with the well-known language JavaScript and React. Like, what's the most popular language in the world? JavaScript. What's the most popular framework? Arguably, I'd say it's React. And then you're able to supply all these things to all these platforms. It not only allows you to activate your team, it also feels very good in developing it, and it's very practical and fast. And you're seeing widespread adoption of React Native. Amazon, Microsoft, GasBuddy, Coinbase. Like, why not use React Native?
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Now, I have a story about that, but I'll save that until after.
Okay.
Because
I feel like the story gets to do the story now. Go ahead.
Well, I would, but it's best that I leave it for after we go off there.
Okay. Well, what I'll say is it sounds like it might be somewhat pejorative to React Native, and also everybody's trying to do this one solution for everything. Doesn't mean that it's a silver bullet, doesn't mean that it can work perfectly and people can't screw it up. You can screw up writing native code, and you can screw up writing JavaScript. JavaScript, however, likes to give you a foot gun with every installation. However, it is the language, and we are all sort of like mature JavaScript and TypeScript developers now.
Yep.
And so we have a ton of protections, a ton of understanding, a ton of ways of how to test, plan, and organize, and make sure that we're actually are hitting the goals for accessibility, speed, performance, code reuse. The trick is, I'll end it like this. Infinite Red, we are a React Native consulting company.
Yep.
Half of our projects come to us and ask us to build a wonderful React Native experience for them. And half of them come with some code that someone else wrote from, I don't know where they find these people, and ask us to turn it into a wonderful React Native experience for them.
Yeah.
And that's how we do it. That's a lot of fun. And doing it the right way with people who are professionals, rather than, oh yeah, my weekend project is now the main project for the company, really gives the proper support that's necessary for doing a millions of user app.
Nice.
It's necessary to give it the focus it deserves.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I was actually going to touch on that. Infinite Red does do, React Native consulting, like you said. So that's great. Now I know that you wanted to talk about Chain React.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So a little swing here while we're in the React domain.
Yeah. Well, quite specifically, there was no React Native conference in the US, and we said, let's throw it. And we threw it, and it has had the highest repeat, like people who have gone to Chain React kill for their next Chain React ticket. Please talk to anybody who's ever been there. As a serial conference goer, I think I know what's pretty important for a conference to be thrown. You treat first of all, you treat your speakers absolutely right. They need to have red carpet treatment. You need to treat your attendees, fantastic. And then you bring everybody together in a very equal and supportive environment that is focused and friendly and safe. And you give these people the tools necessary to have a wonderful time. And every year we have a blast. Yeah. Oh, and the next one's going to be in May in 2023. So we will be announcing that this week.
Very cool. I'll have to ask you a few questions about that later too.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah. Throwing conferences is its own art, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I thought about doing one, and well, it was when I was still living in Maine, and everybody's like, you should throw a lobster themed conference. And I said, you know what? That's a great idea. And then I went and I did some research, and I went, wow, that is a lot of work. And I am just,
it's a lot of work and a lot of money. Yeah. And you have to be honest, you have to have a successful conference, and the money comes second. Professional conference throwers probably don't make money until they've done it they're running 4 or 5 conferences and they're sharing resources, or they've done it for a long enough time, or their goals are just not to make money. And so our React Native conference for Chain React is quite specifically to turn around and give the experience right back to the attendees and to the speakers, and just happy to be a part of it. Makes it a lot easier. It takes the pressure off, because that's a lot of difficulty to have all those people ready for 1 week, and then also trying to make what you could make in consulting No, yeah, it has to be about connecting people.
Yeah, definitely. I prefer now speaking in and attending. So I think
Yeah.
I'm good for right now with the whole conference thing. The way it is
Yeah.
now. I couldn't
I understand
imagine.
that.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, from the organizers I know, like Pratik and Vincent and
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
them, it is a lot of work. It's a lot of tireless work, and they do.
Yeah.
The ones I've been to so far that they've been phenomenal.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
really
Connected
great.
which was Pratik and Vincent,
Yep.
do several different conferences. They do ViewConf, they do Connect Tech, they have a part in Refactor, they have a part in Dev Nexus. Like they're on the board of the Jug board in Atlanta and a couple other things. They're doing one in New Orleans in 2023. All these pieces together make it just high quality, fantastic. Another thing I'll say is that Magnolia, Kayla was doing Magnolia, and her heart was in the right place. Take care of the people that are there. Make sure everybody's learning and is happy. Make sure you give them good food, good music, good tech, proper attention, and that's the formula for success for a conference. It's no small bill that comes due. It is. It has to be a passion, and you have to have a very big happiness in throwing something so significant.
Yeah.
Anybody who's throwing it for the paychecks doing the wrong thing.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Not the right
And
thing.
Magnolia was fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
really, really fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
the lineup was great. I love the single track, where
I love single
everybody,
tracks. I love single tracks. Yeah.
everybody got the, hopefully hear everybody or mostly everybody, and no, that was great, and definitely looking forward to next year.
Yeah.
So with that, I know we're going a little rapid here with the
It's
kind
all
of
good.
back and forth, but I want to get into AI because
Yep.
AI,
It's
to
an exciting
me,
topic.
it is. It has, I look at it and I go, stuff like that is awesome. Like, I can control my home with AI,
Yeah. Yeah.
but then I see robotic dogs that are doing cartwheels and backflips, and I'm like, our robot overlords, they're going to take over.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. I, for one, welcome the robot dogs. It's about time.
yeah.
The dogs had their rule.
Yeah. So you do a lot of AI stuff.
Yes,
And
indeed.
I've seen you give talks about it, and
Yeah.
you're really, I want to say you're very passionate about it, and you're very into it. What is your favorite thing about AI in that space?
Oh, well, I'm just going to activate everybody's nerd brain and say that to a certain degree, that you're able to do things that have never been done before. And for anybody who's been around as long as we have, sort of remembers the experience of like, oh, I've done this or I've created that. If I were to write the code to make a rotating cube or animation or something like that, all that has been done for a long time. The math's been figured out. It's been in games since the 90s. And while it's really exciting and interesting to really understand the linear algebra behind these things or any of those kinds of concepts, there's also, it's you're just sort of in the middle of the road of a large like math textbook that you'll never ever be able to solve or even like improve. Whereas if you take a look at the edges, the cutting edge, you can take one technology from over here and tie it over to a technology over here and create something that nobody thought would be a really great idea until it's absolutely connected. And it's sort of like the advent of like maps were added to phones, right? Maps were added to phones pretty early on. It wasn't a complicated thing. They get Google Maps or tie all these things in with their APIs. But then Uber and Lyft came out what, like 5 or 6 years after they were there. Like someone said, I hate cabs. They never show up, and I want to see where they are. And wouldn't it be cool if we shared that service out? What if I glue these 3 things together and create something new, and then there's a billion-dollar industry? Where AI is, it's that sort of place where I actually have more ideas of things that have never been and totally could be than I have time to make. And so this makes like sort of like a calling out to my the nerd herd. Just people, there are so many things. If you want to memorize and measure different sorting algorithms on different platforms with different sort of JavaScript engines, there's a place for you to stay inside there and get that information and solve that. And it's really fun stuff to do. Don't get me wrong. I love, getting schooled on a concept and being able to say like, oh, this is this linear algebra concept or something like that. But if I want to, like I did with React Native, create a Nicolas Cage detector and find somebody in the audience wearing a Nicolas Cage mask, that's hilarious, fun, interesting, and something that nobody's ever done before. And I could come up with it, create it for a talk, and make it. And, doing that in React Native in 2018, nobody had seen anything like that. And so it's really, really, really cool. So I'd say like my favorite part about the AI is that, one, it's exciting. You get to build something that's never been done before. And 2, I like democratized AI, talking about the robot overlords. That only happens if a few people have control over all the AI.
Right.
And if we all have some part in AI, then we get things wonderful like being able to turn on and off our lights and add all these features and do all kinds of other stuff. But if you don't, then, imagine if it was not public information that deep fakes were possible. Can you imagine that? If that was done behind closed doors, what people could do with that kind of power and that kind of evil? Democratizing AI is a second part that's really important for me.
Right. Okay. That makes me think about, what is it called? Thispersondoesnotexist.com.
Yeah, this person does not exist. They have this bedroom does not exist. This foot does not exist. They kind of got a little weird with it.
Yeah, I can't let the podcast go into that realm, but
yeah, let's stay away from this foot does not exist. You might get weird flags or a whole listenership you didn't really want.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think benefits of AI are when it comes to helping people?
So many. Yeah. It's what's wonderful about it is that in a certain way, when the phone came out, people who were visually impaired, there's this wonderful story. I'm gonna have to send you a link to it. But back in Ruby Motion days, Austin, this name of the gentleman, did this one app where he would point his camera at something, and it was supposed to tell. He has a brand new phone, and he could tell him what the color of that thing was. And so he was super excited. He downloaded it. He did it. He points to something. It's like black. And he's like, okay. Points to something else. It's black. And he points to something else. It's black. And then he's like, all right, I knew this was too good to be true. It was really sad. And then he realized it was 9:30 at night and he's blind. So all the lights were off. So he went and turned the lights on and it's like red and yellow. And he's like, no, it was such an amazing moment,
Yeah.
And then, imagine improving that even further, saying like, I see an apple, that's a $5 bill, especially here in the States where all our bills are the same damn size because why not?
Yeah.
That's this, that's that. Helping people with all kinds of stuff. I think computer vision is a beautiful thing. Auditory is going to be even more impressive. I personally have trouble identifying when a bunch of people are talking what the person in front of me is saying. I accidentally listen to everybody. It'd be amazing if I could actually, now they have earphones that do not noise canceling, but directional noise canceling, where they cancel out the sounds of people, or like they picks up what's being picked up over here is subtracted from what you're looking at. I mean, that's something I need like yesterday.
Yeah.
If you ever see me at a bar or at an after party at a conference, I'm just nodding my head like I don't know what anybody's saying anymore. There's too many noises.
Yeah.
It's just there's an infinite supply of tasks that do not make sense for a person to do and absolutely make sense for a computer to do, just like it always has. Accounting sheets and spreadsheets of figuring these things out and doing those numbers. Humans always made mistakes, spreadsheets don't, and now you can think at an executive level with every project you do because there's a thing called spreadsheets. Now imagine that you want to watch a conference, you want to watch some cool talks about a particular framework from Magnolia JS, right? Wouldn't it be cool if you could just go in and type that framework's name? It went back, found all the moments and all the videos over 2 days worth of material and flagged when they were and gave how long they talked about it, the sentiment in their voice and in their terminology, whether it was positive or negative. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a you can imagine way more than it could ever possibly create. And each of these things are like a spin-off startup, just like just like in the days when there's an app for that, that's where AI is. There's an AI for that.
Yeah. So let's go to the other side of the coin
Yeah.
and the potentially damaging or harmful ways that AI could
Mhm.
affect people.
Yes.
How do we, as professionals, as people that are pretty much behind,
Mhm.
getting these things with algorithms and all that, and we've seen like Facebook and how damaging
Yes.
Facebook
Yep.
was, and even to the same extent Twitter, and how that damaging that
Yeah.
was. How do we, if not eradicate, minimize the impact of damaging AI?
Yeah, the most important part is that we all have some transparency. And that's part of what I was talking about. Just like you asking this question right now, that is the answer. There needs to be a person in the room asking these questions. And I can tell you, in all the terrible decisions that have ever been made, there's not been there's been a bunch of people thinking about profits and no one sitting there and even asking the question. And the problem is when only a few people know about something, and only a few people have the control over it, only a few people have this. If it doesn't affect them, then the ethics are never part of it. We see this constantly, where people are blind to what their privilege is and what their ability is and what their situation is compared to everybody else. And so one of the things I think is it needs to have more conversation. It needs to be more involved. And we need to have people who say, I don't feel comfortable doing that. When you're implementing an algorithm for Facebook, whether it's AI or not, and they're saying like this is going to cause people to stay here for much longer, and this is what we're optimized for, and we're going to tag them with someone they hate with a political view that they dislike, so that we draw them back into the app. And this is called the insert cute name here. There needs to be a moment of saying, wait a second, I don't know if I want to be a part of this.
Right.
And um, the unfortunate part is the Stanley Milgram experiments from back in the, I think, 50s or so show that people just end up usually listening to authority. So when the authority tells them in the Stanley Milgram experiment, it was apply an electric shock to this person, they just did it. They didn't think about whether or not it was a good thing or a bad thing or whether or not they were okay. And there's a saying, I forget the saying, but it's a beautiful one. It says, every snowflake in the avalanche says it wasn't their fault, right? We need more authority figures. We need more knowledgeable people, and we need more informed decision makers in the rooms, in the conversations, knowing what's happening and being able to call people out.
Yeah.
And I love when I see that happen. That creates this sort of power balance back of, hey, you need to, you have a ton of bias in your data. Like, what are you doing? You go punch them in the face. They need that. They really do.
Yeah.
Your data doesn't work for any culture other than the one you trained it on. Like,
Right.
and you want to release this to the world? Is that really the vision you want to put out there? And without people saying that, we would still have terrible AI saying racist things.
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest thing that surprised, and it really was a surprise at the time. 2018, I think it was. Josh Clark was giving a talk in Boston, and he showed a clip of the sensors you put under your hands under the sink in the public restrooms, right?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And the white guy puts his hand underneath, and it's okay. Black man puts his hand underneath, nothing.
Yeah. That is, so we are in a world now where it's not programmatic, it's data. Data is the new oil, and AI is the new electricity. And what happens is people are finding and having to call out extreme data bias. And all data, don't get wrong, has bias. And don't get me wrong, if you do a weekend project where you're doing paper, rock, scissors with your webcam, and all it can do is detect you, or like maybe you and on your background, or that you trained it on a bunch of different backgrounds, the best I could do is still train it how to see this old white dude's hands. So the truth is, the data is where the AI gets its value. And I could build a fun weekend project and show it on a stage, but the truth is, if I want to release it out anywhere, I have the caveat of saying, like, this is what's, if I wanted to sell it, right now, I'm under an extreme obligation to do proper data collection and proper bias detection and properly anomaly detection and proper all kinds of things. I'm trying to at that point, I need to give that. And what if only a few people have access to the data? What if only a few people, like, who are the data mediums, can create those things?
Yeah.
Then the only people who can create new AI will be them.
Yeah.
I do applaud companies like IBM who released a diversity data set for free to the community of 60,000 diverse ethnic faces of all kinds of different shades, colors, and lightings. What a wonderful thing for IBM to go ahead, collect, handle, and then give away for free. Thank you. Like, that's the kind of stuff we need. That's the magnanimous movements we need for AI to move in the right direction. But without our pressure, do you think we would have ever seen anything like that? They'd be like, no, have them spend millions of dollars to go collect that.
Yeah, definitely. So with this, good, bad, my brain always goes to, and me, and it's always accessibility.
Yeah.
So, and my big pet peeve right now are overlays.
Yeah. Yes.
So we see them all the time. Matter of fact, I went to look up the menu for Nobu Scottsdale, because I plan on bringing my girlfriend there for our anniversary. So she's gonna find this out when she does the transcripts. And
you gotta go soon.
they have an overlay now.
Oh yeah, wow. All right.
And So I'm torn between, all right, do I go or do I think, nah, I don't go because they're using an overlay.
Yeah.
Now, the inaccessibility of these overlays is
Mhm.
they put up more barriers.
Someone's doing a cash grab, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, it's all marketing, definitely.
Yeah. Marketing cash grab is disgusting. I see it all the time and everything. I mean, like you can see it at different levels of someone's conning people out on Facebook Marketplace to someone's created a pseudo business and has all the hype words and all the connections to sell it, all the way up to I don't know, Dogecoin. I have no idea what the top would be, but it is difficult because they're remove ethics and you have people like this.
So my question is, how accessible can AI be?
Yeah.
And I can imagine it can be really accessible in the
Yeah.
right hands.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I had this conversation in Magnolia with a few people about how Microsoft's actually leading this ability of adding alt text to images automatically and kind of but the real winner, honestly, if Twitter would have just embraced accessibility, they drive me nuts. I can't tell you how many times I've tweeted out a photo and then gone, whoops. And then what do there's nothing you can do. That's it forever. You can't go add alt text or anything like that. And it's like, okay, now I've got 50 likes on it. Do I delete that and try again? It's such a terrible decision. And then they have that little flag inside the app for only some people to stop you before you hit send. But I think like wouldn't it be cool if Twitter tried to tell you what's in a photo and they had the AI try to do it? And here's the thing. This is how to implement AI. It's very important. You have to integrate and work and test and A/B test and manage and cull the data. You have to. So if you went to hit tweet on a photo and it says, "Hey, we're going to add this text right here as the alt text for the photo," do you want to change anything or is this good? I think, and it can establish formats and paradigms and ways that these things kind of happen and kind of be good. And the person could go in and edit it and then say, oh yeah, like thanks for this. And you're 90% right. Let me just adjust less for this part of this. And then they hit tweet. Guess what Twitter just got? Gold. Amazing data. Not only did they get alt text, more searchability, and a whole benefit from there, but what they also could have gotten was my edit to it, improving their engine. And if you had millions of people doing this, and just like, whether or not they modified the text or not, you would have a constantly improving, extremely vital image to image description AI created from that. The data from that would be immense. Probably. I mean, as a service, you could probably sell that. Many, many, many times over and improve the stock value, the usability, the searchability of everything on Twitter. And that would be a wonderful way to do it. How not to do these things is like they had this. I think they tried to like remove porn off of Tumblr. And what they did was they just added the best AI they could to it. And it had false positives, but it was just an absolute jerk. It was like a person would like upload a toaster and it was like, not today, chump. Your toaster is very pornographic, not going anywhere. And people were like, this sucks. I'm not using this. This isn't connecting me. This is terrible. What is this disgusting story?
Yeah.
Compare that against, and I'll just do one last example of how to do this right, is nextdoor.com did a toxicity detector. And you're like, you know what? I like ducks, so I don't care what you think, hey, jerk. And then you type that, you go to hit send, and then it goes, hey, just hi, we're about to post what you said, but just remember these are your neighbors, and maybe you want to evaluate that before you go ahead and hit post here. You could override us, no problem. And you could say like, oh, you're right, I'd kind of being a jerk. Thank you, nextdoor.com. Or you could say like, no, man, burn it down. And you click it anyway. And either way, whatever I click, it's such great data for that platform. Either I improved it or I don't care about it when it comes to ducks, or I'm a jerk and I should have like my visibility restricted at some point after some manual review. All kinds of things can happen. That's how you should be implementing this, to make everybody's life better, not to dehumanize, click 3 to speak to a human. That's not what AI is meant to be for. It's meant to help you get you the right information as quickly as possible and help you out. And then, I'll get off my soapbox. But yeah, for accessibility, it needs to be done right. It needs for connectivity and for friendliness and for all these features that they're implementing. Putting up these disgusting barriers and doing money grabs. I mean, hey, next door, I click burn it to the ground.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because the more I've read about AI and the more I've looked into it, it can be useful for,
Right.
it can make things more accessible for people. So the Twitter example you use is great, because the issue I currently have with that is it's an option.
Yeah, I wish that they would. That should be on by default.
Yes.
You're talking about the feature that says, "Hey, you're about to send a picture with no alt."
Yes.
I don't even have that option. It's not even shipped to me on my phone. I constantly accidentally forget, because their UI drives you to quickly tweet, read, and interact, because that's where their metrics are.
Yeah.
And that's what's measured. That's what's managed. This other thing is and all too often, accessibility is an afterthought.
Yeah, exactly. So the point that you said, you tweeted out and it's like, oh no, there is a way around that.
Yeah, okay, I know it.
And that is to reply to that tweet you tweeted out and put alt text, and then your alt text in another tweet following that one up.
Okay.
Because that works just as good as kind of like a safety valve. Because I've done it before. I've tweeted out a picture and went, oh no, but I follow it up with alt text, and Todd's got a lobster roll in his hands and he's eating.
Yeah. and I wonder, like, I would love to hear from a community of people saying like that does work or that doesn't work. Because in my brain, I think of a situation where you go, oh no, this, they never see the reply because they're just like, that's how that goes out there. But also, I'd love to hear like, hey, thanks for doing this. Or what's funny about it is it's like recycling. It's putting the onus in the wrong places, when the system itself that we could put together could be a lot smarter, a lot nicer, and a lot kinder.
Yep, definitely. So I use let me bring it up here. There is a tool that I've been kind of experimenting with on Twitter called alt text utilities. And I will tweet this out later on. Nice. It says here, various utilities for helping screen reader users and folks writing alt text. So I have tinkered around with this when I see a picture that doesn't have alt text. The issue with it picks up if there's text in the photograph, it picks everything up.
Yeah, it does a little OCR for you. Yeah.
Pictures that don't have any text. So for instance, one I did the other day was a picture of the space shuttle. And it came back with the the number letter combination that they usually had for space shuttles, and then the name of the space shuttle, but that was it. And then other pictures, there was a picture of an outdoor scene that came back with nothing.
Yeah.
Another, yeah, and another one with a file name.
You know, it's really funny. There's a plugin. So what happens is if you upload something to Facebook, they actually have this internal AI and tagging system that they place inside there. But I think it's part of the retention system where it says like two people, people smiling, sunset or something like that. Kind of like just it gets nouns that are inside the image and can actually derive a bunch of nouns. And there's a Chrome plugin that will actually like show you what Facebook has derived in there and pull it out of the tags. And it's pretty interesting to get that. But what's funny is there's so much information you could get from these. You know, if it were worked on, if it were active, if it were focal, I imagine you could get a pretty decent system without a significant amount of effort. I mean, I'd say this saying specifically that I know Microsoft's working on exactly this, so they might be looking to sell something like that pretty soon that does exactly this and selling it almost as a service for websites that just want to go ahead and it depends on how that's implemented. Here's a moment for you, Todd. One person in a company says the accessibility people are after me again. I guess we'll buy that stupid service from Microsoft and we'll run it on all the images and then we'll just go ahead and embed it and stick it in there. Okay. All right, everybody get off my back. Or, you know, like that's the wrong way to you know, just they're shoving all this stuff in there. And at least you got them to do that. But as a better system on all this is like having it where it runs directly for, you know, like as you're uploading the image, allowing them to edit it, you know, improving all of this, using it in a multi-phased pipeline of improvement. That'd be what I'd like to see.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It just depends on who's in that room saying like whether or not they're trying to make money faster when they have to spend this much budget or how they're going to implement that.
Yeah. Yep. So the TensorFlow book.
Oh yeah.
I've gotten a little bit into it and I hope I got vacation coming up. I hope to dive into it a lot. Because it's very interesting. So when I heard you speak at Connect Tech.
Oh yeah. Wow. Feels like forever ago now, yeah.
it does, yeah. Let's talk about TensorFlow JS book. What is TensorFlow? And how do we apply it? How do we use where do we use that?
Yeah. So the quick part of this is that there's a bunch of AI frameworks out there. No reason to write everything from scratch. If you want to write everything from scratch, there's a wonderful course from Stanford teaching you all the math from scratch. Lots and lots of work just to go ahead and get to the beginning. And we see this with programming all the time. Then you get frameworks. Frameworks help you do all the common things and then have little weird hooks to allow you to do exploratory things. And Google's framework for machine learning and AI is TensorFlow. And because they're Google, they can afford to go ahead and do this. And not only on the back end with Python and TensorFlow and all that stuff, they can also write one that'll run on the client side, and that's TensorFlow JS. And so that's what I wrote a book on. And it's really cool because you could, you know, anytime you bring something to JavaScript, it means it can kind of go everywhere. You could stick it in React Native, you could stick it in a website, you could stick it all kinds of stuff. So I generally enjoy that. So I have my this is it. I told them I wanted a reptile. They gave me a turtle. I was like, sure, that's no problem. So it's TensorFlow JS, and then it's also been translated to Chinese.
Chinese, yeah.
So you've got Chinese and English. I think Japanese is coming soon as well too. So super cool. If you're a JavaScript developer and you're interested in doing some of the stuff that we've even talked about, or want to come up with a bunch of ideas that are really, really, really cool, you should definitely check out that book.
Yeah, I'm looking to. So I was telling a few people, I like to go when I go to a conference. I like to go to a talk that I have no clue about. Right.
Yeah, it's always fun.
That was one of them. When I went to your talk, I was like, you know what? I do the accessibility talks. I'm going to go see Gant, and
yeah,
the stuff you did on the screen live there, it was great. And I was like, all right, I'll shoot my shot when you said tweet out something and people will win the book, and lucky me, I was one of those people. So thank you for the book, by the way. Thank you for signing the book. And I'm looking forward to just like absorbing that and going, okay, I'm gonna see what I can do with this. So
it's really fun. In chapter 2, you start to I think we write a truck identifier. And it's really easy. That's chapter 2. It's like, how to tell if there's a truck in this photo or not. That's super cool. And then, I go through quite an adventure. I don't ease off the math as much as, you don't have to be a PhD. You just have to have a high school level math skills. And then I throw you in a little bit. Hey, let's do a recommendation engine. Let's do a recommendation engine. I think we did that in chapter 3 or something. Music recommendation engine, and that is a little math and how to do that. But hopefully I make it fun and exciting along the way, and you just build some really cool stuff. And I really, really enjoy the sort of the practical application of detecting stuff, identifying it, putting it out there, putting boxes around it. I think when chapter 4 we detect pets' faces. So cute. I could do that all day.
Yeah. Looking forward to reading the book. So now I got to ask the tough questions.
Please do. I love them.
Okay, first one is, tell me more about this collecting coins that are not coins thing.
Oh, okay. All right. So now we're getting into it. Now you learned. Actually, you're the first person I've told about this. So I don't know how this happened, but I got a hold of some weird coins that aren't really kind of any kind of currency. And I was like, that's funny. And I gave them to my daughter. And then I saw there was some more. And then I gave away some cryptocurrency to my nephews, and I gave them a little Bitcoin with it, like a little silver actual Bitcoin, and a little different style of coins for the cryptocurrencies they had, because it's virtual. They don't care. So I gave them this little coin. And then each time I did something like that, I kind of just got one for myself. I was like, I want one too. Now I have a treasure chest, and I don't know what happened to me, but I just keep seeing coins that aren't real coins here and there. They don't have any real experience, like the Hogwarts coins. They have the galleon and the different sizes. You can get them from Harry Potter World. I have those. I have some Dungeons and Dragons coins that you can use if you have. And so now I've got this treasure chest. And it's got the weirdest collection of coins ever. I have to have 100 crazy coins. I promise you, they're really weird. I have a Deadpool coin. Oh, I had a friend of mine send me a challenge coin. He didn't know anything about this. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just sending you a FBI challenge coin since I'm in Washington." And I was like, "Thanks." So now I have I have challenge coins. I have everything. It's ridiculous. So I'll just say that if you're ever walking around and you see a coin as a souvenir that's not, it doesn't have any real legitimate currency, pick one up for Gant.
I will remember that in my travels. Definitely. I bet now that I think about it, jogging my memory real quick, I think I've run into a few.
Well, who makes these and why? And
Yeah.
why am I keeping them?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. That is
Well,
so
I do have a treasure chest, and it's full of really weird. I have one with like Super Mario on it. Like, I love. And here's the other thing: when you've got a treasure chest full of weird coins, it only takes 2 glasses of wine before you're like, "Y'all ready to see my coin collection?" And you're like, "Oh, here he goes again."
Right?
Take a
That's
look at this
great.
one. What the hell is this? Is that an Aztec coin? I don't know. And
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
That's
I don't think I
great.
could ever bring it anywhere. I just continue to
Yeah.
accumulate it. So that's me.
So here's another question
Uh-huh.
for you. When
Yeah.
I'm in when I am in New Orleans and we go out
Yes.
for dinner,
Yeah.
because I'm gonna make this a reality at some point soon.
Sounds like a plan.
What are the top 3 places you're gonna bring me for a great meal?
Woo! For what kind of food?
Could be anything.
Oh my goodness. So first thing I'll say is a location-based answer will be along Frenchman. We'll probably hit something like Snug Harbor or something like that. The steak's good. It's not going to be great. The food's all going to be fantastic. Southern, fried, delicious, yummy. The drinks are going to put you on your ass. And then we're going to go outside and we're going to walk. And we're going to look at art because New Orleans is a city where people can actually be an artist and make a living. And then we're going to keep listening to music from each bar until we hear something that we like, some bluesy or something, whatever. And then that's the bar we're going to go into and we're going to continue to drink. So Snug Harbor, simply because of where it's located, just a great spot, right in the heart of everything. Secondly, we have this, we actually have some pretty crazy Cajun sushi.
Okay.
There's like, you rent out the whole sushi restaurant with 12 people, little hole in the wall place, and that's a night in and of itself. That's a start. That's how you start a night off. You get some nice Cajun sushi. You get 12 flights of nigiri and different types of sushi and sake. I don't even. They do like things with phyllo dough that should have never been done before. I love it so much.
Okay.
That's another one. And then there's a wonderful restaurant here called Brightson's, with just some of the best food. And I love going to Brightson's. I'd say sometimes Brightson, the actual owner, does this special exclusive sitting in the kitchen cook for 10 or 12 people kind of like thing, where he explains where he came up with the ideas and he talks about it and he cooks it right in front of you and he makes all, like, 10 or 12 of you dinner. Your wine glass never sees the bottom. Somebody's filling it up magically. Speaking of Hogwarts, right? And then you just the food. You're talking to Frank Brightson himself, and he's cooking dinner for you. That's of course another pricey ticket item, but I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of memories that you think about when you're on your deathbed, not the couple $100 that it cost you to go ahead and get it. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do those things, and then we'll go to Commander's Palace for 25-cent martinis. You can watch me drink them, and then I'll fall over. I will say that New Orleans is very alcohol centric. That's the dangerous part. I will have to recall most of what I said, because I know you won't partake in that. Just remember, you'll have to carry me along and tell me what we did that night.
All right. Hey, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Right.
I appreciate it. Hey, the next crazy coin I'm going to add is a 5 years sober coin, I guess. As this city will drown you if you're not careful. That's the most. But the food, everything's just. It's an amazing place. It's an amazing place. But it's heavily tied into everything that we do. Even our tech outings here in New Orleans, which are a very small bubble. It's hard to be a nerd here.
Yeah.
They're at bars. So
I have been to New Orleans before. It was during.
Do you remember it?
No. No.
Yeah. Yeah, that's our superpower there.
Yeah, that's the gray area.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
part of the gray area in my life.
well, we'll give you the food besides that. And so like the what I said there is the suggestions. We could adjust those to be less drink centric, of course.
Hmm.
But it's hard to extract that specific part. It's almost like everything's paired with music,
Yeah,
art. The whole vibe
yeah,
is not meant to be removed surgically. It's almost like you'd have to abstain at the right points, which is how I've survived here so long, is to know when to say, I'll have a glass of water.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think if I had moved, if I had ever moved down there at that time,
Yeah.
I don't think I would have survived.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah,
No, we
I get what
we
you're saying.
I've grown up here, so I have the antibodies.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
here's the point where I get to the three questions that I ask everybody.
All right.
Short answer, long answer, doesn't matter. Here's the
Yeah.
first one. What about the web these days excites you and keeps you excited in what you do?
Let's see. The most exciting thing with the web today, I think, is the instant sort of communication that it's creating. And by that, I mean, you used to have to like go buy a particular headset to do 3D or to be in like a 3D world. Now you've got that sort of like a website. It's a link away. You used to have to say like, "Hey, download this game," and now WebGL, it's like right there. It's a link away. And I know it's kind of old news, but it's getting better and better and better. Webcam access, location access, um, all the cool things that computers do is turning into instant access via the web, and that's super awesome. And like I said, like when I do the stuff with AI, I like to do it with the webcam instantly.
Hmm.
Like I like to create something immediately and then get that feedback loop of seeing like if I did make a truck detector, you could do it. You know, if you could do a tutorial, it'll be like code and how to get it on an image. But in my book, we could do it, and you could hook it up to a webcam, and you could, by chapter 6, you could set up a camera out front your house to let you know when someone gets too close to your car. Like,
Yeah.
and that's instant. I can send that link to everybody, and everybody has that app. So I'd have to say the instant connectivity.
Yeah. If there were one thing you could change about the web that we know today, what would that be?
Ooh, that's a great question. And I think that I will say that I kind of buy into the concept, not the application, but the concept of Web3. That free access, nobody's able to restrict. No one's able to say like, "Oh, my website's going to load faster than this one because I'm the ISP" or anything like that. That sort of free exchange of information that's promised by Web3. I know I might be eating those words, and Web3 is going through all kinds of growing pains. Everything that's really cool goes through growing pains.
Yeah.
So I'd have to say that.
Okay. Favorite part of front end development, design, anything else in your field related to your field that you really like the most, that you nerd out over?
I love building stupid examples of things. It's not so much to make a chart library. It's got to be like the chart library is going to have a graph of ducks versus horses or something fun. Like it's just the silly examples part of it speaks to my sophomore humor heart. So I love demos. I love keeping the web silly. I love silly examples, and you'll see that even in some of the libraries that we do. I put a lot of jokes in my book. I put a lot of jokes in my talks. I put a lot of jokes in my open source.
Yeah. Variety is the spice of life. So
yes, it is. but nothing can beat the spice of Blue India in Atlanta, the best
Oh,
Indian food any of us have ever had.
so yes, oh yeah, because so when I was down for refactor, definitely
Mhm.
had to hit Blue
You
India.
went back?
I went back and oh,
It was just as good.
I had that 1,000-yard stare again.
Can't wait. I've heard that so I'll be comparing that against London. I'll go to London
Yes.
and I will try the food there. And if their Indian food can beat Blue India in Atlanta, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Yeah, because I definitely need to know that. Now, I also found out, and I can't remember who tweeted it at me, but there is a place that does lobster rolls
Ooh, all right.
in the area of the venue that I'll be at, I believe, or pretty close by the vicinity. I will definitely have to track that down, and
Yeah, share that
I'll
with
get
me.
that to you.
Yeah, share that. I need to see.
That I'm
For
very
science.
interested in. For
For,
science.
for
For
science.
science.
For science.
Definitely. So I like to close out the podcast with my guests letting the listeners know what they have currently going on
Yeah.
and where people can find you online if they have any questions.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'll be at React Advanced London. I should be at Render Atlanta next year. I'll, of course, throwing Chain React in May of 2023. Check it out. If you're interested in building mobile apps and you want to leverage your JavaScript knowledge for mobile apps, check out React Native. We have React Native podcast, React Native newsletter, all those kinds of things. So if you're a web person looking to make your mobile app, we got you covered on that. Just make sure you do it right. Just do it right. Uh, Meaning, like, take a second and realize it's not a browser, and there's a little few differences, but they're not a lot of differences, just a few, and we can help you through those. The podcast really helps people sort of get started on those things, and then I'd say, like, definitely check out the cool things that I'm doing. Oh, I'll be at Connect Tech. I'll be at Connect Tech in November.
Yep.
So that's going to be a really fun one. You could see where I'm speaking at gantlaborde.com, first name, last name. And then you can always check me out on Twitter, Gant Laborde on Twitter. See what kind of crazy mad scientist stuff I'm tweeting about.
Definitely. And definitely go out and buy the TensorFlow book.
Yes, please definitely check it out. If you if you like computer vision, if you want to like do things that have never been done before, I actually don't go down the old hackneyed paths for this. I came up with all cool examples: pets' faces, drawing things with dice, detecting wine glasses or something. Like I have a lot of really fun things that I've done in here, and I spent a lot of time thinking of how to be creative. So if you want to enjoy learning about AI and not have to go get a PhD, learning TensorFlow JS, that's the book.
All right. Gant, thank you so much for coming on. Always
Thank
a
you.
pleasure to see you and talk to you. Definitely going to see you soon in November. Connect Tech.
Yes.
And of course, we're gonna tear it up. I'm gonna tear it up. I'm gonna tear it up as much as I can.
I have one of my teammates will be flying in with me to Connect Tech as an attendee. He's going to be checking everything out. I haven't told him anything. I told him you're going to eat Indian food with me, and he said okay. I didn't tell him what he's getting in for, so we'll definitely we'll be back to Blue India.
Yeah, definitely. So again, thank you, Gant, for coming on. Thank you, listeners, for tuning into the Front End Nerdery podcast. I'll be back next time with a new guest, new conversation about front end design, development, and other topics. If you would please rate this podcast on your podcast device of choice, like, subscribe, and watch on the Front End Nerdery YouTube channel. Links to transcripts and show notes are there. We want to make this as accessible as possible. And finally, I'm Todd Libby. This has been the Front End Nerdery podcast. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.